TGR News, broadcasting from the State of Israel.
Welcome back to TGR News.
Hello, hello.
This week we'll talk about a young girl was shot in the head while sitting in her own home. Also, we'll talk about Israel, how they went into Jenin to take down a large terrorist cell planning to make a large attack on the streets of our country here in Israel. But first, let's say thank you. Thank you so much for everything you guys are doing. It is such a blessing. We say the same thing every week because it doesn't change. It's just an amazing thing to be a part of. Giving this food that these people so desperately need every week, showing up at their doorsteps and handing them the food that you made possible through your donations and being a part of this ministry is an amazing blessing to everyone involved. And so we always say thank you because you deserve a huge thank you. And so really thank you for everything you guys are doing. And like we talked about last video, there's no reason why we can't reach more and more people. So let's help us try to figure out a way to get this ministry out to as many people as possible, so that we can feed as many people as possible. That's all this is about: is feeding as many people as possible.
Yes.
So thank you so much. It is a blessing to be able to be a part of this with you guys, and it's an amazing thing. So God bless you all.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it.
Yeah. Let's do it.
The Biden administration is telling Netanyahu to tread lightly with the Palestinian issue and is pushing for a two-state solution. And then Netanyahu was told to drop the sanctions that we put on the Palestinians for taking up the issue in the UN, causing the ruling of Israel being an illegal state of occupation. Abu Mazen, the head of the Palestinian Authority, told the U.S. to get involved and push Israel towards a two-state solution.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. That's what he said. But it is surprise, surprise that he told America to do it. They hopped to and they did it, this Biden administration, right?
Yeah.
Try to push Israel into a two-state solution and to back down from the sanctions. And just in case you don't remember what we're talking about, a couple weeks ago, the Palestinian Authority, representing the Palestinians or the Israeli Arabs, is the more correct way to what they really are, because they have Israeli passports, Israeli IDs. They're Arabs, Israeli Arabs.
Yeah, they use Israeli facilities. Yeah. They get everything.
Right.
Yeah.
More than we do, even.
Yeah.
And so they had the Israeli Arabs represent themselves in the UN, in the IGC, the International Justice Court, or I forget. Yeah. To rule that Israel is not a legal state, and we are actually an illegal state of occupation.
Yeah.
So of course we put sanctions on them for doing stuff like that, and now the U.S. is saying we shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as the Shabbat was over at the beginning of this week, the protesters came out in large numbers. This time, over 110,000 protesters filled the streets of Tel Aviv in protest of Netanyahu's coalition and their decision to try and make the Supreme Court more transparent. And they are protesting just the possibility that Netanyahu won't fire the leader of Shas, Aryeh Deri, as a minister of the coalition. We talked about it last week, that he has to fire Aryeh Deri.
And we'll get into it. Of course, we know Netanyahu always ends up doing what needs to be done. But the thing is 110,000 people, and there really is no leadership to this. They're all kind of just bogged together. Every one of them probably has a little bit of a different idea why he's there.
Yeah.
And in general, it's just over the idea of maybe the only real thing that actually they're protesting, I think, the real deal, is this new reform about the Supreme Court, which is only trying to get the Supreme Court to try to be more transparent about how they appoint the judges as Supreme Court judges, to be more transparent and not to be the way it is now, where all the judges in the Supreme Court here in Israel, they voted themselves in.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
it can't. So they're trying to stop that. It's like it is in America. It should be here. You vote for the politicians.
Yeah.
And the politicians, they got the most votes. you know, that the people trust him to make decisions.
Yeah.
He has to be a part of, if not the main part of appointing the new judges in the Supreme Court.
Yeah. Well, I have problem. My problem is the Supreme Court. They're hypocrites. They're hypocrites because they say like we are good, everything's great. We don't have to change one little thing. The Supreme Court is perfect, and this is not true. And the majority of Israelis know that there's problem with the Supreme Court. So maybe they don't accept all the the changes that Netanyahu and Aryeh and Levin suggested, but at least start some kind of compromise in things, talk about things. Maybe we change a little bit here and you go, let's go towards each other.
Right.
It's like coalition trying to do some reforms and changes, but the Supreme Court say no way. There's no negotiation.
Not even budging.
Yeah. So I don't like this thing.
Well, one of the ways that this crazy protest is damaging the state of Israel is its direct effect on the S&P global rating. This is possibly going to make the bank interest go up as well as cause a rise of unemployment, seeing how such a thing caused outside investors to pull out in places like high tech and other things and all kinds of investments.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it is a damaging thing that's happening, but I think we need to keep it in proportion also, you know.
Yeah.
But what's making this damage is the protesters, not once again, because let me get into it. 10 to 12 years ago, it was the left wing who was trying to do this. And there was no problems with S&P rating, global rating. There was no problems with everything else. Yeah. And everything was fine because the right wing, we didn't go out to the streets as over 100,000 protesters and protest that we're losing democracy and this is horrible so that's what's making the damage, not the actual reform that
the representation of it, how the left wing represent that
the spin they put on it.
Spin, exactly. That we're losing, that our country, Israel won't be democratic again.
Yeah. While all this is going on, Derry has stated that if he cannot come through the door, then he will come through the window or whatever is open, meaning that he is not planning to stay out of the government for very long. This is just adding more fuel to the flames. What will most likely happen is Derry will step down and place someone in his place that he feels that he will be able to control him in order to stay in position of power. Yeah. That will probably be what it is. But also, we'll get into what actually ended up. This is the leading up to what happened.
Yeah.
You know. So, but Aryeh Deri is definitely planning on sticking around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on Sunday, Netanyahu had to fire Deri. You could see that this wasn't easy for him, but his hands were tied. Now he'll have to find a new minister for the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Internal Affairs. This will most likely cause a big mess again, only weeks after the positions of the coalition were filled. Now they are back to square one and trying to figure out who has what job. Yeah. In Netanyahu's speech about his termination, he stated that the coalition will do what it can do to fight this decision of the Supreme Court and bring him back to the coalition.
Yeah, well, he did fire him. Of course he would have, because he had to, because if he didn't, it would have been an illegal government, made illegal by our own judicial system, which is not a road that you want to go down, and Bibi understands that. Yeah. So, of course, he fired him, but I'm sure they're going to do what they can, and if they can, they will bring him back into some sort of ministry office.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, enough of that. Now we get into some other things that's happened here in Israel lately. This week in Pisgat Ze'ev, which is a neighborhood in Jerusalem. It's a neighborhood in Jerusalem going like towards the Dead Sea. A young girl was shot in the head in her own home by a bullet shot from an Arab neighborhood nearby. She was not seriously injured, thank God, and she will be okay. But this is a problem that Israel is still having to deal with daily. our right-wing coalition has so much to do, but this problem should be high on their list of things to do.
Yeah.
I mean, she's sitting in her own home, and
we're not always talking about it, but every day, and not once, probably a few times a day, the neighborhood, it's very close neighborhood, one to another,
right.
Jews and Arabs, and they just shooting, and you don't see exactly who's shooting, but every day we see reports about people like babies in the cribs. You see on the walls some shootings, and it's scary. And from one hand, those people don't want to leave because they want to stick, and we're still here. We don't want to leave. You won't scare me away.
Right.
But from the other hand, if you're raising your child in this neighborhood, you feel
they showed it on the news. She was sitting in the living room in our house, and you see the bullet hole come right straight through the window of the living room, hit her right in the head, shot right in the head, and she's it's a miracle, and she's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know many people. I personally don't know many people. Actually, I only know one. It's true. I'm making this up. I only know one other person that got shot in the head and he's okay.
Yeah.
But that's not something that happens very often. I don't know if you guys saw the short clip I sent out this week saying shalom from the IDF, but we took part in the largest yet training exercise that the IDF and the U.S. have ever done in the Middle East to simulate and get ready for a large attack on Iran, on Iranian soil. The Israeli and the U.S. Air Force, Navy, and Army were involved. This is the third time that this has happened, but this was by far the largest exercise ever made together, with over 6,500 U.S. soldiers, 12 Navy ships, nuclear bombers, and the U.S. aircraft carrier George Bush. I can't tell you much, but I can say that the level of intelligence and preparation Israel has for such a strike is more than impressive. It was I was in the Army, and I don't know if you guys saw the little short clip. I think it was a 12-second clip saying shalom from the Army. But so everything I've told you here is not inside information or anything like that. It's just because part of the reason for the big exercise was also as a show of force to Iran and everyone. But it was an amazing thing to be a part of, and I know sometimes I give videos from the IDF, not just shalom, a little bit of training clips in this.
Yeah.
The reason I didn't on this one is because it wasn't one that I could have shown much of. So I just did a little shalom clip from the IDF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Israeli citizens near to Lebanon border woke up on Tuesday morning and saw very tall watchtowers right on the border made by Hezbollah, with soldiers looking right into their windows while sitting in their homes. This is now a new and very unsettling reality these Israeli citizens are having to live with. I don't know exactly what Israel can do about it, as long as Hezbollah does nothing but watch from this tower. They
Absolutely
didn't shoot,
correct.
they didn't... Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know. I agree 100%. I have no idea what the state of Israel can do about that, as long as they just stand there and look, right? Because, it is in their country, it's not. So unless they do anything and not even have to shoot, maybe even if you see them start building big weapons or something, or big guns up there or something, because then it becomes an imminent threat. So yeah, we could probably do something about that. But could you imagine that, sitting on the border of Israel in your home? Because there are homes right up on the border where there's actually even one village where the border goes through the village. Half of it, the south half is in Israel, the north half is in Lebanon. But that'd be an interesting place to take a video of, but they hardly ever let anyone in that village unless you live in that village.
Yeah. But what I would do, I will build our very tall stations too. And just without weapons, just to look at them, maybe even higher than there.
I don't know.
Just for them to feel the presence of the army there. Maybe they will feel a little bit like, I don't know.
Well, Hamas out of Gaza has been stepping up its efforts to enlist young Arabs in Israel with Israeli citizenship to become terrorists. They are doing everything they can to try and cause another rise in terrorist activity in the streets of Israel, as they did during Operation Breaking Dawn. The internal threat of terrorist activity is number 2 on the most dangerous issue Israel has to deal with, only after the Iranian threat. This is a big deal, and when they start, the problem is, unfortunately, when Hamas goes on a big campaign to try to recruit Israeli Arabs into their cause, they're usually quite successful, unfortunately. So when we see them doing this, it's a big deal because we know it's very possible that something's coming up. They'll be able to do something. So it's something that Netanyahu has to take hold of quick and figure out how to deal with it, which I think he is doing, by the way.
Yeah.
We'll talk about more what's going on this week happened. On Thursday morning, the IDF went into Jenin and took down a cell of Islamic Jihad activists that had plans to out a large terrorist attack in Israel to kill as many Jews as possible. This mission encountered a large resistance and ended with 10 dead terrorists and many injured. After the IDF was successful in taking down this cell, the Islamic Jihad out of Gaza released a statement saying that they were going to attack in revenge, meaning firing rockets into civilian areas of Israel. Well, first of all, that's a big thing. We know that they know how to aim their rockets. They don't have to aim at our civilian homes. They can aim at our military bases, because when we go after them, we don't go after their regular civilians. We go after their militant, their terrorist activists, the people who are actually holding the gun, right? So they could have done that too. But yeah, so this is part of what I believe what's happening with saying, when I said earlier, where I think Netanyahu is trying to take a hold of what Hamas is doing, trying to recruit Israeli Arabs. But doing this, he actually got, because in Gaza, you have Hamas and Islamic Jihad. Hamas is in control and bigger. Islamic Jihad is smaller, and Hamas likes having them there, because sometimes Hamas likes saying, allows them to fire rockets and then tell Israel, it wasn't us, it was them.
Release the dog.
Yeah, it wasn't us, it was them, right? So they like the situation as it is. That's why they don't, overtake them or anything. So this is Israel, which I don't like, by the way. Israel for the last 24 hours has sort of been on hold, waiting to see if something's going to come out of the Judean Samaria area, if the Hamas is going to, or Islamic Jihad is going to fire rockets out of Gaza, and it's been all over the news, which they, as we know, watch our news just like we watch their news. So it's just, I don't like the fact that Israel does that, but that's just a fact of life. People talk about it when they think rockets soon to be in the air, right?
Yeah, well, sometimes even little thing, less than what's going on now, can make a big fight.
Absolutely.
A long, big fight that we have to put our forces inside Gaza and
Absolutely.
So we never know.
Absolutely. You do never know. And one thing's inevitable, they will act up again, and they will fire rockets at us again, and there will be more terrorist attacks. It's inevitable. Unfortunately, it's just a fact of life in Israel. But like you said, you never know it could be the big thing we did that started it off, or it could be the little thing we did that started it off. You can't really always tell which one is going to be.
What excuse they will use this time.
This time. It's just, it's basically when they got enough hatred built up again, and they got everyone riled up again enough, and they have enough weapons and everything else and money. That's usually when all of a sudden everything lines up, and then, it was because Israel did this, we go after them, right? Yeah. Well, you got anything you want to add?
No.
No. Should I wait a second and see if we're going to add something?
No.
No? Okay. Well, don't forget to join us on thegoldenreport.com. And until next week.
Shabbat Shalom.
God bless.